Hello to all and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a warrant officer candidate school or WOCS breakdown. We're going to go into some of the things that you all should know before you report to WOCS, some of the things that you should know while in WOCS, and we're going to talk a little bit about graduation. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video. So one of the things that you need to know is before reporting, you're going to have to make sure your finances are in order. So that means any bills, any subscriptions that need to be paid on a monthly basis or whenever, you need to consider making sure you have those on auto pay or just simply paying that debt off before you get to WOCS. While you're in WOCS, you're going to be able to have your phone at some point, but there's designated times during the day or during the week where you'll have your phone. And so that designated time often is anywhere from 1800 to like 1900, where you're authorized to have your phone in designated areas, etc. Just make sure that all that stuff gets squared away, because you don't want any distractors from life hindering your ability to pay attention in class or be there where you need to be there, because you're stressing about, oh, when's my bill going to get paid? So that's one of the things that you need to worry about, your finances. Not to mention that, okay, so this is the first time that I've heard this term, $1,000 dot. So when I got to here, that was the first time that the TAC officers were yapping away about this term. What the $1,000 dot means is that you're going to invest money into becoming a warrant officer, becoming a W-1, whether that be through making alterations to your uniform from enlisted to officer, or it's something like the class t-shirt fund, class coin fund, class hat fund. There's even a coffee fee that you have to pay in order for you to get coffee and have coffee mugs. And then there's vending machines, miscellaneous stuff like that. You're going to have to invest money into becoming a warrant officer, not to mention the stuff that you need to get on the packing list, which we'll touch on later. But to become a warrant officer, you got to put in before you can get here, and that's just what that term means, $1,000 dot. Funny term that they said here. I didn't think it would be literally 1,000, but we have people in our class who literally paid $1,000 just to attend WOCS from all those things I listed before. So just keep that in mind. As far as those funds that I mentioned, the class hat, class t-shirt, you want to make sure that you bring with you cash on your way to WOCS. You're not going to have too much time. If you're TDY, right, if you're just coming here, you're not PCSing to Fort Rucker. You're just or Fort Novello, excuse me, it's called. You're just TDY. Well, you need to make sure that you withdraw some cash. So for me, I had $300 in cash that I carried around with me in my wallet, and that was to take care of those funds. Now, give or take, $300 is safe. For me, I didn't use all of the $300, but that's just in case you want to buy. Maybe you have a crap ton of people back home that you want to give a coin to, class coin. Go ahead, knock yourself out and buy it. But $300 for me is conservative, so I went ahead with $300. I only ended up spending like $150 to like $200, somewhere in there. So that's just some advice for you. The next thing that you want to consider before reporting to WOCS is your life arrangements. So for me, I'm active duty. I am an aviator, which means that I'm going to be PCSing here to Fort Novello. I knew that when I was leaving. And so what I did was, as soon as my name came down on the MILPER, once I got selected, the first thing that I did is immediately hop on the housing for Fort Rucker and immediately went and got on that list. You don't need your orders to do so yet. If you don't have those yet, you won't have those right away. You have to wait a little while before you get your orders. I waited a few months for mine. And so what you want to do is get on that list as soon as possible, just because some people, even if you decide that you're going to live off post, you want to get on that on post housing list, because sometimes plans don't always go the way that we expect them to. Sometimes you have plans to live on off post housing, and maybe for whatever minor inconvenience, I don't know, it was a problem with your deposit. It was a problem with processing you, or maybe you didn't have plans to get into the housing until after you completed WOCS because you didn't want to pay that extra month. But then the house that you wanted was taken by somebody, so now you got to find somewhere else. I've heard a few of these from other students who elected to wait to go and apply for housing. Guys, get your housing as soon as possible is my advice, just so that way you're not worrying about it when you go to WOBIC. For those of you who are aviators, that is. For those of you who are technical warrants, you're not really going to be staying. You're going to leave and go back to your unit or go wherever else to go to your WOBIC. And so you're not going to be staying here. It's less of an issue. But for those of you who are active duty, or excuse me, not just active duty, for those of you who are aviators, you need to ensure that you get housing beforehand and consider that. Other things to consider: family arrangements, ensuring that your family they're here, they're comfortable, kids are enrolled into school, daycare, whatever activities that you need for them. Speaking of activities, you need to make sure that your people your family isn't bored at the house all day while you're in WOCS. This is something that people consider an afterthought. So their wives, their children are just kind of home and they're not really out much. She's got all the kids, and what you want to consider is making sure that you look for any of the popular events coming up. Look for things for them to do that will help, kind of keep them entertained and stuff while you're in WOCS. If they're not going to be in school all day, they want to do something. There's plenty of stuff to do here at Fort Navajo, so you won't really have to worry about that too much, but that's just an afterthought, something to think about. A thing that's common here is for single soldiers, they don't have any children or a spouse. Maybe they do have a girlfriend. What they'll do is they'll rent out the extra rooms that they get when they get their housing, because all officers, you do get BH, and so they'll just rent out that. That's very common here, in case you were wondering. Something to think about. Now we want to talk about the packing list. So for me, the packing list, I didn't have to buy too many things, too many items on the packing list like I thought. Mind you, $1,000 dot, those funds add up. But for those of you who may be missing a few items from CIF that you weren't issued, yeah, you're gonna want to go and make sure that you buy the things that you need for your packing list. One of the things that people kept saying when we had a group chat and we were communicating with each other is the same question that we were hearing over and over again, which is, oh, I only have ASUs. Do I need to go and buy AGSUs? Or, oh, I only have AGSUs. I see that there's on the packing list a list for ASU items. Do I need to go? Guys, you don't need to do that. Don't overthink the packing list, but ensure that you have everything on the list. So for right now, it's not mandated. It's 2024 right now. It's not mandated that you have your AGSUs and ASUs. You have one or the other right now. It's perfectly fine. If you only have ASUs, that's fine. I personally have both, but I'd rather wear my ASUs right now, and then eventually I'll get into wearing my AGSUs. So I just brought my ASUs. I didn't even bring the AGSUs. Perfectly fine. Make sure that you get everything that's on the packing list, obviously with the exception of the optional category of that packing list. The mandatory items, you want to ensure that you have them. Even if it seems like, oh, I don't need this. I'm going to the summertime. Why would I need winter PTs? Guys, either get it, communicate with your leadership on whether or not you need it, which you'll have access to your TAC officer before you get here. Hopefully you get a chance to end up communicating with them, or somebody designated in your group communicates with the TAC officer to ensure that you need it. It's really a case-by-case basis, but I want to tell you that for those items that you absolutely have to have, you need to make sure you bring them. The reason why that's important is because you can actually be dropped from the course if you don't bring everything that's designated on the packing list. So you're going out there to Land Nav, and in Land Nav you need to bring, I don't know, iPro. You need to bring iPro. Well, if you don't have your iPro, you only have your prescription glasses, no iPro, they can just up and decide, well, you don't have everything, you weren't prepared, you had a packing list that should have been signed off by you and approved by your chain of command, your previous chain of command. If you don't have those items, they can just up and decide, well, you're unfit, DNR'd from the program. That's it, no return. So you want to ensure that you get everything on the packing list. We didn't have anybody in our class have this, but I've been told by previous candidates that this is a thing and that some people can get kicked out. It's not common, it's rare, but it can definitely happen. So I just want to let you all know that. The next thing on the list is your DTS, or Defense Travel System /leave. ensure that before you leave your unit, you know how much leave you want to take and that your travel vouchers are squared away. You have a way of getting to, like you have a way of driving or either flying to WOCS, that's squared away beforehand. That's a common thing that kind of gets people nicked up, but it's mostly a unit issue where some people's units only allowed them to fly out the day of their WOCS date or fly out the day before, and so they weren't able to properly prepare and they had to kind of rush into things. That's very common. Some people even reported 2 days after their report date to WOCS, and so they weren't able to get squared away right away, and they had to do things such as maybe they had to delay some in-processing, and that really pushed them back from when they had to graduate and then go to WOBIG. Guys, ensure that you're taking care of this stuff ahead of time. Try to communicate with your unit, ensuring that you get everything you need, your necessities for travel, take it squared away beforehand. That's my advice. Although there are some people that it was nothing they can do. Their unit just was potentially a crappy unit, maybe. And that's just what happens. So that's something to consider before coming. Also, your leave. Ensure you know how many leave days you want to take, either between your unit to WOCS or between WOCS to WOBIG. Ensure you have that squared away. Those are the main categories of people who get screwed over with their leave because maybe they just didn't plan accordingly, or they're not in the system lauded. They have leave, and so they have to go straight from WOCS to WOBIG, and they start instantly. There will be another opportunity for you to get that squared away once you graduate WOCS, but I would try to get it squared away beforehand because there's a lot of information that will be thrown at you even after you graduate WOCS. That's just my tip for that. Okay, so now we talked about before reporting. Let's talk about upon reporting to HHC. Once you get to HHC, you're gonna in process, as you may already know. Once you in process, you're gonna conduct your initial ACFT. You're gonna do height and weight. All that will be done at HHC. Obviously, no brainer. You want to do your best you can on your ACFT. A good score to have would be 80 in each event. Take this seriously. I know you just got there within the first 3 days, within the first week, you're already taking the ACFT. That means that before you leave your unit, you need to ensure that you're in shape. You need to ensure that you're ready to take a PT test. We had a few people drop because they didn't pass the ACFT by an event or a height and weight issue. So don't let that be you. Don't end it before you start. They had a chance to retry. They had a chance to retry the ACFT. But make sure you're just not delaying yourself being here as a holdover because of something as small and silly as you didn't pass your ACFT. That's just unnecessary time being wasted. While you're in HAC, you will also be issued your WOCS and your linen. Now this is the time when you get issued your WOCS. This is the time to read your WOCS, study it. It's like your Bible for WOCS. Literally everything you need to know about WOCS, everything you need to know about how the standard and how things are, what is expected of you for the standard is in that little book. And I promise you, if you don't know something and it's in your WOCS and you screw it up, you could get in trouble for it. And that can be something that inconveniences you and ended up setting you back as far as your time management. It could inconvenience your time management. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but your WOCS is like your Bible. While you're in HAC, that's going to be the time to start studying your WOCS. As soon as you can get it, you want to look at that WOCS. The WOCS will also tell you the way things are supposed to be labeled. All of your stuff on your packing list, it has to be a certain way. And so that WOCS will give you small minor details that it needs to be set on things like maybe your camel bag or your duffel bag. Ensure that you're following the directions and reading carefully because small details, they matter. And that's what you're going to learn when you go to WOCS, that the small details matter. So transitioning over to the first walk company. In the beginning, it's going to be stressful. It's going to be hectic. One of the things that you need to make sure is that you remain calm. Don't allow the chaos to throw you off and get you sidetracked from your task. Okay? You're reporting in for the first time, which means that it's going to be hectic. Also, when you first report to WOCS, you are going to have to recite the warrant officer definition. Guys, that warrant officer definition is critical. You will say the warrant officer definition every day. Every day you will say it. If you don't, but you are going to be expected to know it before you report to WOCS. They're going to give you the warrant officer definition months before you even report, and you're expected to know it. It's kind of long, the definition, but it's not like the NCO creed. Like, I was an NCO before this, and I had to know the NCO creed, the soldier creed, and I just knew it by saying it over and over again. Do what you need to do to learn it, because if you don't, you're going to be in a position where day one's going to be very long for you. So just make sure you all know the warrant officer definition. That's a key thing. So WOCS has a merit-based system. What that means is that if you are not adjusting well to the program, if you're just not able to do the right thing when you're supposed to, what could end up happening is you could rack up too many demerits and end up on what's called TAC Pro or TAC probation. If you end up on TAC probation, you're on just that, probation. And so you're expected to straighten yourself up, correct yourself, realign. It's not the end of the world to be on TAC Pro. It's temporary. But if you, however, if you don't adjust to and correct yourself and end up finding yourself over and over again getting in trouble or not doing the right thing, then you can be DNR'd from the program. You can be kicked out, and they can decide, well, you're not able to adjust to the WOCS standard. We're going to have to kick you out and dismiss you. Thank you for coming. Goodbye. One thing to understand is that that system, that demerit/merit-based system, it's only meant to stress you. Don't be too concerned about these demerits that you get. Don't try to rack them up, but don't overthink it. If you're on TAC Pro, it's not the end of the world, like I said earlier. Just straighten up, have your classmates keep you in check, humble yourself, and you'll be okay. This isn't that big of a thing. Now I want to talk about the candidates. So the demographics of my class was about, I want to say roughly 50% of the class were tech warrants, and the other 50% were aviators. We take up a large portion of the class. The ranks were anywhere from as low as private to, I think the highest ranking person there was like a sergeant first class or a master sergeant. Either way, the junior enlisted were promoted to sergeant anyway on your record. So if you are straight to seat, you're a private. When you get to WOCS, they promote you to sergeant, and so you'll get sergeant pay while you're enduring the course before you pin W1. Our class started at, I believe it was 90 or 93 people, but we only graduated 83 people, and so there were a good little number of them that didn't make it through. But some of them, majority of them just ended up recycling. To my knowledge, I only know of one person who was DNR'd from the program, and I believe it was because they gave up. I'm not 100% certain who it was, but this was in the beginning, and so there was one person that didn't make it because of that. But the rest of them, I believe they were recycled for small things that were just kind of out of their control, or maybe they failed something and they had to redo something in the next cycle. Whatever the case is, though, guys, don't quit. Don't quit. WOCS isn't so hard that you need to quit. Unless you're having emergencies back home, I can't see a reason why you would just up and decide, well, I have to leave. So that's my advice on that. Another thing I want to touch on is get along with your peers. Guys, it can either be a long 5 weeks or a super long 5 weeks. Okay? You don't want to be causing any unnecessary stress on the already stressful environment. Nobody wants to be there after a while. Those weeks kind of drag on. After about week 2, 3, you kind of just feel like, when am I going to graduate? That sets in for everybody. It's completely normal. Guys, don't make it harder because you want to start fights or you want to argue, or you're sitting up there causing unnecessary drama and strain on the class, because all that's going to happen when drama breaks out is you're going to have less and less privileges. Privileges will get taken away, and you're going to be reprimanded. If you're the person that's causing the trouble, you can actually be peered out by your peers. So that's something to consider. It's not going to be a thing where it's like, yeah, I'm a piece of crap, but I'm getting through because I'm passing all of my academics. You can have the highest GPA in the class, but if you get peered out, you can be DNR'd from the program. So make sure that you're just squaring yourself away, you're getting along with people. I personally felt like everybody in my class got along really well. I obviously had no issues with anybody, and it didn't seem like anybody else had any issues with anybody as well. If there was, it was kept so low-key that it never came up on the net. So I want to emphasize that you all need to get along. We were like the best class when I went through. Our tag team loved us. The other classes want to be us. You know how that goes. Yeah, we were the best. And getting along with your peers can be hard when you have some people who were certain ranks before, and so they have maybe this chip on the shoulder of I don't need to do this, or this is so beneath me because I was a staff sergeant. I was a sergeant first class. I'm used to being the leader. I'm used to being the platoon leader, the squad leader. Why am I now going back to private mode? Guys, just humble yourself. Honestly, you have to put that behind you. You're no longer enlisted. You are a warrant officer candidate. It's going to be different. We're all the same rank. Even that guy, that Joe Schmo guy who just got into the Army yesterday, graduated basic training and reported right to WOCS. Even him, you all are equals now. You're not equal in your knowledge, but you're definitely equal in rank. And so you can't pull rank anymore. You can't expect people to just do what you say because, oh, I'm saying it because my rank. No, that's no longer a thing. You want to make sure that you're just humbling yourself. And we had no issues with that, but again, that's just something to consider. So the next thing is academics. Academics is important. You want to ensure that you are scoring well on your academics. You're going to be given homework some days you have to do, and it's not due until maybe the next week, maybe the next day. The biggest thing about that is time management. You want to manage your time appropriately for your assignments. Take time to do them. Don't procrastinate on them too much. I was the type of person that if I was given an assignment, sometimes I would procrastinate, not gonna lie, but it always bite me in the end. And there were times where I almost didn't get assignments in because I procrastinated a little bit on something because I was just tired. That just comes with managing your time. So that's the thing that I have to say on academics, just time management. Major milestone events. So the major milestone events is the ACFT that you do in HAC, Land Nav, 10K Ruck, and military brief. And so those things aren't hard things to do. Before you get to WOCS, you can touch up on your Land Nav. It's going to be necessary to do that because there's a good portion of people who don't make it first time go on the Land Nav. I'm just going to be honest with you. The Land Nav course, it's not a bad course. It's not horrible, but there are some people who just don't make it. Some people haven't done Land Nav since basic training. And so they're just not in tune with it. And so what you want to do is make sure that you touch up on this before you go to WOCS. You're going to be given a class on it. We're going to brush up on it a little bit, but for those of you who haven't even touched a protractor since basic, Land Nav is something that you want to touch up on. Also, prepare yourself for these ruck marches that you're going to have to do. That 10K ruck about took me out. Okay, I made it, of course I made it. However, I'm not a big rucker. And so what I ended up doing before I got to WOCS, I was rucking dang near every day. I was rucking when I was in my previous duty station. I took time to ruck with my friends, by myself, in the rain, whatever I needed to do because I knew that I wasn't a big rucker. And so I managed to get a stellar time on my ruck simply because I put in that work before. Guys, make sure you prepare yourself for that. Okay, so the next thing on the list are common things that can get you DNR'd or recycled. These are just things to look out for if you are weak in some areas you want to make sure you brush up on. So one of the things that can get you recycled, failing the ACFT. So honor code violations, lying, plagiarizing your work, or cheating in general. Guys, if you cheat on an event or you plagiarize, don't. WOCS isn't that hard where you need to do that. I'm telling you right now, the academics are not going to be that hard where you have to steal your work from somebody else. Don't do it. Lying, don't lie. Okay, they have an honor code, and so they're going to expect if you get caught red-handed for you to tell the truth. Telling the truth may save you. Maybe not. Depends on who you get in leadership or how serious the offense is. But don't be out here lying, guys. Okay, officers, we're the standard. We're not supposed to be out here lying, plagiarizing. That's just beneath us now. Like, don't be doing that type of stuff because that can get you kicked out. That can get you DNR'd right away, expeditiously fast. Disrespecting TAC officers or candidate leadership. That's pretty self-explanatory. But again, with that candidate leadership, yes, you all are now the same rank. Don't abuse it. Okay? we're still humans. And so there's a certain way that you know that you're supposed to talk to people. Don't be out here disrespecting your classmates, okay? Especially if they're elected to be class leadership. Don't be out here showing your butt to them. And that goes for candidates in other classes. Don't think just because the senior class, the class ahead of you, they're about to graduate, you know, they got their senior status, whatever. Oh, well, they're WOCS too, they're candidates too, so I don't gotta listen to them. Yes, you do. You know, they're your equal, but if they're in a leadership position, you need to still listen to them. Injuries, that's a thing. We didn't have any injuries in our class, but it could happen. It's an unfortunate fact of life that people get injured. And quitting. Guys, don't quit. Push through, you'll be okay. Remember what you came here for. Remember that you put in the time, put in the work to become qualified to do the job that you are about to do. And so quitting when you've come so far, I mean, that's so unfortunate. If it's something that's, you know, it's an emergency, you just can't be here, or, you know, that's one thing. But quitting because, oh, it's a little bit hard. I mean, sometimes the training in the military can be hard, but it's what you signed up for. It's what you signed up for. So don't be quitting, okay? Because when you quit, you go back to your previous unit and you go back to your previous rank / position that you were in. You don't want to bring that back to your unit. You don't want to go back to your previous unit the way you left. So you want to make sure that you just don't quit. Don't quit. Simply put, don't quit. And the final thing is graduation. So you get pinned for graduation, you do your oath of office, and now you're a warrant officer. Guys, I really enjoyed my time at WOCS, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed the people, I enjoyed the experiences. There are things that you do in WOCS that, like, I had never done before, and I felt like I actually gained something from WOCS, even as an aviator. I know some aviators feel like they go through WOCS and it's like, oh, that was dumb, I didn't need to go through. But I actually felt that there were things that I could actually take into my career as an aviator from WOCS. And I did get to experience some good people, great leadership. Shout out to my TAC officer, shout out to the TAC team and the instructors. I really enjoyed my leadership. They were great people. And, you know, our primary TAC, oh my gosh, she was it. She was a go-getter. I don't want to spill her name out and put her on the internet, but I mean, she is just great. If you get her, you'll know you got her, because she, in my opinion, she was the best out there. Okay, I don't want to crap on any other TAC officers. They were all great, but I really loved our primary TAC. Shout out to her. You want to stay motivated. Your TAC officer is gonna push motivation, sound off, and that's what they should do. You're going to want to stay motivated as much as you can. It's going to make that long last 3 weeks bearable. And so shout out to the TAC team. You also get the opportunity to network. Heck yeah, I love networking. I love getting to know new people. I love, you know, talking to people from different places that are going different areas and just kind of being able to communicate with them. The warrant officer community is a small community, guys. The warrant officers only take up 2% of the total army. 2%. And so it's a very small cohort, and it's a great opportunity for you. I mean, you're probably going to see some of these warrant officers that you went to WOCS with. You're probably going to see them again. Depending on what you do and where you go, you may end up seeing them again. And so you want to take that opportunity. I had a great time networking with people, adding people on social media, exchanging numbers. Like, a lot of these people I got along with, and I'm just so happy that I got to do that. I look forward to seeing them in the future. Overall, going warrant was the best decision that I've made in my Army career so far. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to, you know, wear this uniform. I'm very proud of how far I've come, and I have a long way to go. And so I want to leave off on a good note and recommending 10 out of 10 recommendation that you all go warrant. For those of you who are considering it, you got my stamp of approval right there. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Thank you all for tuning in to my video. I'm glad that I'm able to give you all some insight. Anything that I didn't cover that maybe you want to know, be sure to leave that in the comment section, and I'll go over and kind of answer your questions to the best of my abilities. Next few videos coming up, Hopefully I'm able to give you all some more insight on some other things. But for now, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.